I want my clients to know that I'm also here just to help them, not because I just want to help them.
Welcome everyone to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals brought to you by Windowfield. I'm your host, Kat Swiller, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Vanessa Hamm. Vanessa is with the agency out in Denver, Colorado, and today we talk about how she started her real estate journey at the early age of 12 years old and how her background in construction management later in her adult life, of course, makes her an invaluable resource for her clients. We talk about her different approach to client relationships and how she's able to help her clients find these needle in a haystack houses. And then we talk about the importance of self-care for long-term success in real estate. So without further ado, let's chat with Vanessa. Vanessa, thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited to kick off our conversation, and I would love to start off with how your journey in real estate started.
Hi, Kat. Thanks for having me. So I started probably, it sounds like a funny story or whatever, but at a really young age, at 12 years old, my parents bought kind of their first rental property, which was an apartment building in downtown Denver, like off of Colfax behind the Capitol. And we would go on the weekends and fix the apartments and scrub the walls because you used to be able to smoke inside the apartments.
Oh,
Um, so we got trained at a really young age. And then from there, I went to school and got a degree in construction management, worked in construction for a while. And then I had my first daughter and got my real estate license when I decided to stay home with her and transitioned into managing those rental units for my family, which in total before we sold it was 64 units.
wow.
It was a lot. Yeah. So we did, I managed those 64 units while raising my daughter and getting my real estate license. And so then after we sold those, I kind of went into real estate full time, and I've been doing that for about 10 years now.
Wow. And did you sell all of those 64 units?
I sold
Like
most
you?
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't sell the apartment buildings because those were better sold by a commercial agent.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I think it was 12 units in one and 20 plus in another. So just to get my parents the most money, the smart thing to do obviously was to sell with a commercial broker. But then I sold the one-offs to the houses and the duplexes and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you started so young. Was it always clear to you that this would be your trajectory?
No, honestly, it wasn't. My dad really pushed for it. When, again, I had my daughter, he's like, you'll have the freedom, which being now in real estate for as long as I'm not on my schedule. Um, but yeah, he really pushed for it, and he really pushed me to get my license and be a real estate agent. And it coupled really well with my construction. So it was a natural trajectory for me, and I couldn't be happier. I love doing what I do. So
That's awesome. And I'm sure with that construction knowledge, that provides such value for your clients, especially in representing new build clients, I would think.
mhm. It's a huge value add, in my opinion, especially in the new build process. I am an agent that actually sees my clients through their first meeting with their superintendent, and I walk the project. I'm there for framing, I'm there for electrical, I'm there for drywall, I'm there for all of those meetings because there's so much that can't be understood to somebody who doesn't have the construction experience. So it's nice for my clients to be able to have like that translator in between. It also works really nicely for my clients that want to kind of flip a property or do some sweat equity. Going in and being able to help them methodically think through the project is a huge value add to them as well.
So many people do want a deal, right? So that they're
Mhm.
willing to put in a little work, and to have you and your knowledge and experience to kind of point out, well, these are maybe the surface level things that we see,
Mhm.
but there might be more underneath.
Yeah, the more underneath is huge. For example, I have a client who they wanted to remodel a kitchen, and as we were walking through the house, they have wood floors, but there was a different wood floor here and a different stain here and different there. And then I go, well, you're going to tear out the whole kitchen. And it's great you want to keep the floors, but you do have to sand and finish all of it because you've got all these different, and those are just things that you don't think about. And so when you're thinking about the added costs of the DIY projects, like, you have to be able to methodically think through all of that. Otherwise, you end up spending a lot more money than you anticipated.
Totally. So speaking of your clients, what is it like for people to work with you, and how do you approach your client relationship?
People, I think, have fun looking at houses. I like to keep it joyous and light, and I like my clients to be able to enjoy the process of looking for a home or selling their home. I like to make it as stress-free as possible, because that's really important to me. I want people to enjoy the process so that they don't turn around and say, oh my gosh, I hate selling a home, especially when it's the biggest asset in someone's portfolio, because it makes it super stressful when it comes to money. But I like to keep it stress-free and joyful. My process, I really like to take the time up front to sit down, get to know my clients, what's important to my clients. On the buy side, I make sure to always do a buyer's consultation, and we'll set up the search together. We'll go through weird questions, like what tones do you like in a home? So then if we're looking at like a neutral versus like a gray color palette, when I'm looking through houses, like I can say, like, you're not going to like that house versus we're going to like this house, to help eliminate the stress of all of the houses coming at them in a search. On the sell side, I really like to find out what's the story behind the home, because when they're selling a home, it gets super emotional. And I don't want to discredit the emotions that the seller's going through when selling a home. I recently just had a seller. They were the original owners of the home. They had been in there 30 plus years. There were tears at the closing table. It was a very emotional process, but we made sure to go through and discuss. He had friends that were squirrels that he would feed every day and give them peanuts. So just like paying attention to those little details and knowing that those things are important to them in the process, I think sets me outside of the realm of other agents. I'm sure there's other agents that do that as well, but that's what I think it's like to work with me.
Yeah. You've shared some client stories already, but do you have any like really memorable or rewarding or even challenging transactions that you've learned from?
I mean, I've had a super memorable one this summer, and it's kind of a cool story. They came to me actually right before COVID happened and said, we want to live in this specific neighborhood in Colorado, and we have a very specific type of home that we like. We went through that buyer process and we really dialed in what kind of home they liked. And we couldn't find it on the market within the first week. So I just started calling around to agents that did a lot of sales within that neighborhood. And we were able to find one within a week. We got in, we looked at the home, we found it off market. We were able to give the seller the things that they really wanted, the things that were important to them, while also finding my clients their dream home that they thought they would never move from. And then they had a kid and kind of grew out of the home. And they called me this time last year and said, Vanessa, we know we did this to you last time, but we want to do it again. We're not moving out of our neighborhood. We want to stay within our neighborhood. We want this model from this builder. And the builder only had 3 models, 3 different models. We really narrowed it down. And it took us about 6 months, but we found it. We locked it up. We closed on it within 2 weeks. And then we turned around and sold their house in the same neighborhood within 13 days over asking, when the average sales price or the average days on market in their neighborhood was closer to like between 20 and 30 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it was needle in a haystack situation twice. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is. And like, I mean, there's so much legwork involved there, and they're so lucky to have you, someone so driven and courageous for them to go out there and make it happen.
Thanks. I like to think that that's kind of like my niche is people coming to me. I have another broker in my office that always laughs at me. She's like, Vanessa, you always come up with the weirdest transactions.
Right, but they're so interesting. They keep you on your
They are.
toes.
They do. It makes it fun. It's why I like doing what I do. I like a really good challenge. So I had another client that came to me after a pretty miserable experience with another agent, and they were getting out of their post-closing occupancy agreement where they had to get out of their home, but they didn't find their new home yet. So we had gone around and we had looked. We didn't find anything. And then they said, okay, we have to find something to rent. So I knew of a neighbor that was moving. And I said, they're actually moving. It's within your timeline. Let's get you into the house, see if you like it, and if you would want to rent it. So we did that. They got into the house, and the wife called me and she said, Vanessa, I love this house. This house. This is the house I want. I want to buy it. But the sellers didn't want to sell it. They wanted to keep a rental here in Colorado. And so I called, they were friends. And then I called them and I said, hey, they really want to buy a house. Is there a price? And they gave us a price and we came to terms, and then they moved into it, rented it for a month, and then they bought the house.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So those are two of my favorites, actually. I really enjoy, like I said, putting together funny deals.
And it really speaks to kind of the connections you have in your market. And I'm sure some of that even comes from being in this industry since you were 12 years old, just understanding the business, understanding the neighborhoods, getting to know the people, you can't really put a price on that.
You can't. And I think that's why the buyer process and the seller process is so important, of really getting to know the people on the other side of the transaction, because it makes everything more personable, and it makes you be able to find what's going to put a deal together, and makes you know what's important to the sellers and what's important to the buyers. It makes the transaction just so much more smooth.
For sure. So as someone who's been, are you a Denver native? Have you been there your whole life?
I am. Yeah. I grew up in like the northern part of Colorado, and now like northern part of Denver. And now I'm in the southern part of Denver.
So it's a big metro, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who come and go. So what are your favorite things to kind of show people who are maybe new or have relocated to the area?
I really enjoy, honestly, going back north and selling in that area, because I know it so well. And kind of being able to be like, this used to be this, and this used to be this, like Westminster Mall. And it used to be a mall that I would go to with my grandma, and there were balloons in the middle of it. And that's how she would get her exercise. But now it's pods and mixed use, and, townhomes on top and commercial on bottom. And so it's really cool to kind of be able to talk through that. And then also up and coming areas that are hip that actually used to be like the old Elitches, and talking through like that kind of stuff. But then also being in the area that I am now, like when I went to high school, it was all dirt. And so to see how much Highlands Ranch has come up since I was in high school and before, when it was just County Line Road, and it used to be cows and just acreage. And now it's one of the, bigger suburbs in Colorado, is pretty cool.
I know how that feels. I feel like the suburb I grew up in is one of like the fastest growing Metro Detroit suburbs. And it's been crazy to watch it go from farmland to subdivisions and just more schools and more everything.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that, like, again, the cows were roaming. There's an area like that our open space connects into called Daniels Gate, and there's still like buffalo in there, and they've kind of preserved it. So you'll see buffalo, you'll see cows, there's horses back there. One guy's got some llamas back there. So I just hope that always stays there. I want that little piece to kind of remain.
I think there will always be some,
Yeah. Yeah. It's what gives Highlands Ranch the charm. Because it was a rancher's community before it was a big suburb, which is really cool. And again, part of the history.
Vanessa, what would your advice be for first-time buyers in this current market?
In this current market, don't sit back and wait, because there's so many people that when the Denver market kind of started getting crazy, that said, I'm going to sit and I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait for the market to drop. I'm going to wait for interest rates to drop. And they missed out on so much appreciation. And it's happening again. And so what's happening right now is rates are kind of funny. They're a little bit high, but we're getting some drops here and there. And it's statistically shown that after an election season, the market kind of picks back up. And so right now is a really great time to buy at the end of the year. You can put some great deals together, and then you'll be able to gain, hopefully, appreciation come Q1, Q2 next year. So right now is a great time to buy. So don't sit back and wait right now.
Ooh, exciting. And so then what would your advice be for sellers in this market?
For sellers in this market, be reasonable. You really need to, one, it's important not to overprice your property right now. And that can be done really easily. And be honest with yourself about what needs to be done to your home. It's really important to stage and photograph a home. The homes that are dialed in right now are moving so quickly. So when priced appropriately and dialed in, staging and photography and updating some paint and really neutralizing so that the buyer can see themselves inside your home is really what's going to help you move your home quickly. My last seller said it so nicely. He said, "You are turning my home into a house so someone can turn their house into a home."
Ooh,
Right?
it's so good.
It's so good. It hit so good.
Everybody's going to steal that for their branding now. Like, we're going to owe this person royalties.
Trademark it after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he eloquently put it. Like, that's the most important thing to keep in mind.
Vanessa, what would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned in real estate?
The biggest lesson, to be really clear, like extremely clear in what it is that we are doing. Whether it's what I'm giving you as my services, what your expectations are of me, what that process is going to look like. And when anything kind of seems to be getting muddled, it's really important to stop and slow that process down and re-clarify that. It's to protect myself, and it's to protect the seller and the buyer. Because it just takes one simple misunderstanding from miscommunication to really blow a transaction up and
Ooh.
keep the emotions out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I really do think that's why people, need agents. My husband and I have been looking, off and on, but before we even really started looking for a house, like we had a family friend approach us. He's a single family home builder that I worked for when I was in college. And he was like, I have my aunt's house. It's like 100 years old. He was like, it's right near your family. I'd love to offer it to you first and all this stuff. And we ended up not going through with it. That's the net. But, it was even in that like little couple of days where we were considering it or whatever. And it was just, a deal or a conversation between us and a family friend. It was incredibly stressful. And I was like, I wish there was someone here to mediate this for me, because even saying no, my emotions felt very high. And I was like, this is why real estate agents are awesome, because I hate doing this for myself.
Yeah. My biggest job is to keep my clients out of the way of themselves, right? So at the end of the day, seller wants to sell, buyer wants to buy. And so if I can help you see clearly through that, then I've done my job appropriately. Because especially like inspection items and stuff, when it comes down to it, it's not worth blowing a deal up over $500 because you can't remove your emotions from it. But when it comes to, your situation, it sounds like that was emotional because it was close to family and it was, a friend, and figuring out how to say no to a friend and be grateful for it. And then how is your family going to feel about not wanting to move close to them and whatnot? Like, I'm sure that that's a lot of the emotion that played into it. So that's a whole different thing that I need a psychology degree sometimes for.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a very old house. You know, it would have needed a lot of work, and just we were not in a position to take that on. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's just an easier no, but also still so hard to say no, you know?
So hard. Yeah. Because you're like, oh, I'm getting a deal. It's off market. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. I'm going to save the money here. I'm going to save the money there. But then again, when you have that agent that can help you see clearly through it, you're like, well, are you really going to save the money there? Back to the construction stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of those types of things. So yes, it's always really important to have an agent to help you see through those things.
Vanessa, what kinds of habits or routines do you have that help drive your success?
It's funny. The most random things drive me. And I'm really competitive. So it's really nice to have like a little friendly competition amongst, the other agents within my team in my office. But really the habits of affirmations every day, 3 affirmations every day, 3 gratitudes every day to keep you grounded in all of this is huge. Writing things down and making lists is the only way I can keep things straight. Because when working with clients and then also raising a family, I, I miss things. I do. It's just the reality of it. But that's definitely important to stay successful, because if I write everything down, more than likely I won't miss it. Are you familiar with Ninja and Ninja agents?
No.
It's a type of training for an agent. It's popular here in Colorado. I don't know if it's popular in other states, but there's a scorecard. So, making 4 phone calls and thank you cards, those affirmations and gratitudes are part of it. It having you send out, 3 to 5 CMAs a week, and just it gives you your tasks to do every day. And then if you sit down and you do those tasks every day, and then your day is free, then you move forward, and you don't, you're not working on your business anymore. Then you go start working in your business.
Ooh, I love that, because I think especially entrepreneurs, I think as everyday people, we get decision fatigue, and it sounds like this kind of takes that deciding out of it. You're like, nope, these are my non-negotiables. This is what I have to do. And then after that, I'm free.
Right. And putting it in your calendar is huge too. So like I have my workout time set in my schedule every day, and it makes it non-negotiable. And if I go and I delete it and I remove it, then it has to move to a different time in the day. So being able to set that's a way to kind of help you set boundaries in the industry too, to make sure that you do find that little time to reset every day. And if I have to answer emails on the treadmill, great. I answer emails on the treadmill. That's fine. But I'm still at least taking that time for me to do what I need to do.
For sure. Oh my gosh. I love a little, those walking pads are super popular, at least among the women I know. But I have a hand-me-down treadmill, which I'm totally fine with. This is my super DIY, listen, keep it simple, desk for my treadmill is I bought this. It's for the bathtub, right? It's supposed to go across your bathtub so you can put stuff, and have your iPad or your Kindle or whatever. You can also buy those and put them across your treadmill and put your laptop on your treadmill in case you're not out here buying walking pads. Okay.
That's genius. It's a lot cheaper than the $600 walking pad.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and if you already have a treadmill, or I'm sure they're a lot more expensive than my $15.99 or whatever I paid for my, laptop bench a la spa rack. Anyway.
You're just manifesting that spa after walking on the treadmill and that nice Epsom salt bath to relax your muscles. I love it.
Listen, I've been sitting on this hack, okay? So this is finally me revealing it. I've been sitting on this hack for 2 years. I think I'm a genius.
I think
anyway.
I think you're a genius. It's a genius move. It's going to be all over Pinterest. You're going to go viral on Instagram with this hack. I know it.
Excellent. Vanessa, are there any challenges you're facing in the current real estate market? And if so, how are you working to overcome them?
The interest rates have been a challenge. definitely right now, buyers are slower to kind of move forward on properties. They're thinking through things a little bit more methodically. And how I try to combat that is it's really important for me to have my clients get with their lender up front, and plan everything out. Uh, and then also when we're going to look at a property and we think it's a property that we really are going to want to write on, running those numbers ahead of time so that when we are to the point of writing contracts or we are in contract, there's no surprises and my clients have all of the information up front. And it seems to kind of take off the edge of, am I going to be able to afford this house or not? And then getting cold feet because 30% of deals are falling in this market.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Vanessa, we're coming to a close on 2024. I'm curious how your goals have gone for you this year and how you are looking ahead to 2025.
I'm really excited for 2025. Like we discussed in the pre-interview stuff, I did just move brokerages, which makes me super excited and it's got me jazzed about selling real estate again. So my goal is to obviously help my past clients continue to grow any wealth that they have and be available for them, but also grow my future client list to a number that seems potentially unattainable for me, but I really like those unattainables because again, a good little healthy competition. But really also dive into the systems with my new brokerage and utilize them to really help guide my clients in what might be an uncomfortable market for them. But I think it's clear. I don't want to
Yeah.
sound. I have like number goals that I always want to hit, but I always don't want to be like a showboaty agent by saying I want to sell X amount of dollars in real estate. Because at the end of the day, if I don't hit that number, I want my clients to know that I'm also here just to help them, not because I just want to hit a number.
Yeah. I mean, everybody, and especially as an entrepreneur, you have to have your financial goals.
Yeah.
And right, it's okay for those to drive you behind the scenes. And I think everybody approaches goal setting differently. I love that you like to aim high. Some people, it's like for me, I'm more of I need to hit something achievable. I'd rather like hit something achievable and exceed it to prove to myself that, like I can at least do this much of a thing rather than get down on myself about setting a super high goal. Other people, you set a super high goal, it's super motivating. It's just so interesting how we're all different and to see what works for different people.
Yeah. And I will say, so, I've had my really best years of selling almost 15 million. And there were also years where, and they were like I had really bad. They were the years that I was like in the worst. So the last couple of years, I actually stepped back and consciously, like that was my goal, consciously slowed down my business for a second to heal so that I could continue doing this in the long term. And I feel back and better than ever. So I'm really excited to kind of push that goal again, but doing it in a more balanced way to where I'm also nurturing myself and my body to be able to sell real estate long term.
And I'm so glad you're feeling better. It's so tough that those two things coincided, right? Some of your highest sales and some of your worst pain. But it sounds like you've learned from that and how to set those boundaries with yourself.
Yeah, it was huge doing that. And I'm really glad I took the time to kind of learn it and do it, because I think it's important to be able to share that messaging too, because there are those agents out there that they do want to sell high dollar amounts of real estate. And sometimes you don't realize what happens on the back end of that. They just see this big dollar sign. And I think it's important to be realistic with some people. Sometimes like your body, you have to take care of yourself too. You have to nurture your body so that you can nurture your clients in a healthy way. And those things are achievable, but don't forget to like check in with yourself. It's super important to do that.
I love that. That's such a great message to end on. Vanessa, thank you so much for your time today. Would you like to tell people where they can find you, how they can work with you?
Yeah, I am Vanessa Hamm. I'm in the Denver market, living out of Highlands Ranch, Colorado. I work with the agency, and you can call or text me 720-989-6149, or reach me via email at vanessa.ham@theagencyre.com.
Awesome. Vanessa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening to The Closing Table, brought to you by Windowsill. I'm Kat Tuller. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify, and if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying our podcast, please feel free to leave us a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.